Hey, folks, welcome aboard to another program of the Political Nooner on Ghost Town Politics. I'm your host, Rachel's Ghost, and with me, as always, Blake McKenzie. I hope Blake's coming through right now. I'm on a new operating system, and it is called Nobara, and it's geared for content creators, which I am, and video gamers, which I like flying my little airplanes around. We got Richard Farley with us. Hey, Richard, welcome aboard. Everybody, everything
all
goes
clear. I'm seeing on both. So yeah.
So
it's good.
Yeah.
Looking good on YouTube, looking good on X. So.
Yeah, Sue says you look good. So what I think it is just simply restream of some of the configuration. So it's something else for me to track down. I just got rid of Windows. I had Ubuntu for maybe 2 days. And then I thought, I wonder if there's an operating system geared just for gamers and content creators. And it turns out there is a Linux system called Nobara. And so I'm building it and downloading it, making Windows programs, et cetera, work. But there's a lot of little idiosyncratic elements to it. And one of them is for me, for how you look on my screen, isn't what I'd want at all, So, but I'm happy to hear that it's coming clear for everybody else. So that's all that matters, that you're seeing it good, Blake, and our audience is seeing it well. So we got a lot of stories to go over. There's a lot happening, as always, from day to day in the world today. Iran, a lot of focus on Iran right now. But before we went to air, Blake was mentioning about Keir Starmer and what we call the Five Eyes: Australia, New Zealand, England, America, Canada, or the United Kingdom, Canada, and America. These five entities kind of spy on one another because it allows them to get around the uncomfortable truth of spying on your own people. So if Americans aren't allowed to spy on Americans, legally they can get around it by getting Canadians to spy on you, or Australians, or what the case may be, and vice versa. So this is kind of happening. Promethean Reports continues to do sterling research work on their channel, and their eye in the sky big picture is really unheralded, just beautiful reporting they're doing. Trump reorienting and the redivisioning of traditional allies. Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? And what's all going on? But Blake, tell us a little bit about the X platform. What's happening with Keir Starmer, and what was the report? It was the Telegraph newspaper, I believe, that broke the story.
Just about the attempt to ban X, and going to the point now that they've passed a law within 3 days. 3 days. Can you imagine? And here they are. I mean, the comparison that we're seeing out there on X, which is great because the evidence is out there, right? We are the media now, and people are presenting all the media. It's like you've got, rape gangs that are taking months, if not years, to go through their court systems and being slapped on the wrist. And yet they can pass a law in 3 days because of the fear X is what they're masking it in is under child protection and porn and stuff like that, and inappropriate images. And yet we have seen the data that X is less than, I think it's about 1.6% of all of the platforms that are out there in social media. X is one of the safest for that kind of stuff in the world. We know what this is about. They don't like political satire, is what it is. I mean, if you go by Keir Starmer's opinion on what this would mean, it means all those skits that Monty Python did mocking government, and they would do stuff in dress and drag, and they do all kinds of stuff to mock their government, and yet they never got arrested for it that I'm aware of. So, but I'm sure probably they've had a few calls to the BBC about some of their shows from the authorities, but amazingly enough, here they are in 2025, locking down the UK on its free speech to the level that it makes them be North Korea. I mean that's what we're looking at here. You are not allowed to speak, only on the speech that they allow. I'm calling it the Canadian version. We're calling it the supply management on free speech, because that's essentially what they're going to do. They're not banning X in Canada. I knew that was going to be the case because Mark Carney's Brookfield buddies have $250 million invested in Musk's X, and we don't know what the amounts are, but they have heavy investments in the Boring Company, which is Elon's larger corporation and interests in Tesla and everything else. So, so they're not going to do it. But where they're going to get you here, which is different from the UK, is that they're going to get you under Bill C9, C8, and C2, which is all the surveillance state, stripping you of your rights. They're going to come after you individually. So that's going to be they'll use X as the platform to watch you and trap you, much what Keir Starmer was doing. But now they just want to shut the whole thing down, because the entire population, it looks like I think the latest poll for the UK is almost 82% of the people have a disapproval view of Keir. 18% do. My concern on X I post is like, I'm worried about the 18%, because that's your radical Marxist, fascist, and Islamicists. You know, the political Islam side.
It's sad that would be that high a number.
Well, I've seen that here in Canada as well, but still, that's still millions of people that you got to be worried about in your backyard. Where we're seeing in the U.S. the very opposite, right? They're outlawing, the Muslim Brotherhood. They're going after. Apparently, they're going to go after Antifa. I think finally, there's sounds like they're going to make them a terrorist organization officially, and of course, we're seeing chaos in the streets. Being organized by the Democratic Party here, but yeah, getting back to Keir, it's crazy what's going on.
Okay, so what precipitated it was, I guess, Grok's got a new feature where you can go. I don't know what Grok calls it. I haven't used it myself. It's like explicit.
I've used it.
What's it called? Explicit mode? Or no? I use Grok all the time, but
there's a
use the new sexy filter, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, but this isn't new, folks. Facebook's been doing this with frames. You can put pictures in of yourself. There was one going around all Christmas where it'd make you look like a sexy lady in a Christmas setting. And all these people all these ladies on Facebook were using it to post themselves up as like it became this filter where you put your face kind of over a model, half naked, looking gorgeous in a Christmas setting. Well, I guess people started putting political faces in there that we know. And I think Keir got his butthurt feelings here done, and he didn't like the idea.
Grok was able to put a bikini on him. So it was Starmer in a bikini. Wow.
It's freaking brilliant, quite frankly. But that's political satire, right? That's the point. We used to have the newspapers used to be funny, where you had decent comedians that knew how to write political cartoons that would engage the people, and eventually they went far left, but and there became regime media. But when they weren't, they were all independently run by their local editorial boards, all that. They would have local concerns, but your cartoons could show that political satire. But yeah, they've done it. Yeah, the mode is, I've used it before in Grok. I'm just kind of logging into it now. And I think it's the where is it here? But yeah, it's you can pick it up. It's under Super Grok, I think.
Yeah, I've got the program. I pay for it, but I just didn't use that feature of it. Let me cancel that. Let me look. I'll see what it's called. I'll open Grok.
It's just making me authorized to get in right now because I'm on. I didn't have it on. So, there we go. I use Imagine, right? That's the service, and you can create anything, videos, imagery, anything.
I know, but there's a new feature about it. Oh yeah, and so you go to image. Then you can,
Imagine, I think it is. I think, isn't it? Imagine.
yeah, I'm in there. But then
Yeah.
once you're in there, you can choose a video or an image to create. And then once you're in there, it gives you a further thing to, let's say, okay, we got a kid here or something. Well, I don't want to do it because it's like a sexy feature. I got a penguin in it too.
Are you
Okay.
going to put your face over it for everybody right now? Let's share this.
That'd be exciting. Okay, I'll kill the sound on it. So
Will you
you
be offended and need to have X band?
okay, here you go. Now this is it. So the trouble is in the video preset, you can choose normal,
Yeah.
fun, or spicy. And that's where the trouble comes. When you do spicy, it's like a little sexy thing.
Yeah.
So let's make the thing go, they want to do confirm. So this got an age thing, right?
Yeah.
Very, so I'm very elderly. So 1916, I was born. Okay, let's see. I'll give it my.
Oh, I thought you said 1916. I'm going, what? You meant
Yeah, that's
1916?
there. Exactly there. Okay, there. Okay, I got my age. Okay, here we go. Okay, so now it's going to make a spicy penguin. Now I'm not going to, because I don't know what the hell it's going to do, right? And Elon Musk just did a huge disclaimer, like if you do anything illegal with this thing, you're going to be liable. So really important to know that. Like if you're trying to, somebody did a thing on an ICE officer, unmask the individual.
Yeah.
Okay, what's going on? This is spicy. Oh, it's like having a fart or something. Okay, hold on. I'll show you. This is okay. We can do this thing. I don't know if I can share the screen. Chromium tab, Imagine Grok. Yeah, okay, there it is. Hopefully, is this coming through? Can you see this?
I can see a little penguin. Yes.
Okay, is it small? Let me, it's got to be bigger probably. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is the penguin spicy mode, right? So I don't know if it's farting or having a fart there or what the hell.
Picking ice up. It's ice.
Well, it could be farting ice. I don't know, man. But, there it is. Anyway, so it's got this thing. All right, let me get back in here. And, okay, remove that. Boom. Okay, there it goes. So, yeah, just learning my way around the new operating system. So Starmer's got his panties in a wad. He's mad. And it's just obfuscation because clearly nobody cares. It's not a danger. He was citing that it's a danger to kids as pornographic. And yet, as you alluded to, apparently TikTok or GPT chat or one of these
Snapchat is one of the worst.
Snapchat is like the worst in the world, apparently, isn't it? For minors getting, preyed upon by bad individuals and that sort of thing, right?
Well, and I think the problem with AI, and this is a concern I have, is that it's getting rapid in its learning process on how to create better and better video, more realistic, to the point where deep fakes, and that's been a problem for a while now, but we will now have to mistrust videos right off the bat and be critical of it. And how do you prove the authenticity if AI gets to the point of perfection, of basically projecting a reality that doesn't exist?
We got the answer for you. You know what the answer is? Do you know what the answer is?
No, I don't, because people are stupid.
Here's your answer. Reverse engineering.
Yeah.
So if you get the world's smartest AI to create something, you get the world's smartest AI to reverse engineer it and then identify it and go, this is artificially constructed.
I mean, I would probably if they even enforced a law. I guess my opinion would be, I don't mind with laws, regulation in a sense that's equal for all. But maybe with AI, at least there has to be a disclaimer, like a logo that the AI generated or something.
Yeah, well, they're already kind of doing that when you have a parody account. You've got to identify yourself as parody or you're going to get bounced. So that kind of impersonation. But you're absolutely right. Like technologically, yeah, they're going to be able to create seamless, flawless stuff. Like it's even at the point now, if I have to look at some of the flight sim stuff I do,
Yeah.
is that a real plane or is that artificially created? Some of it is just so photorealistic, and it's getting better all the time. However, again, reiterate, AI will be able to suss it out, and so people will be, the powers that be will be aiming, and those tools are going to be placed in your hand,
Yeah.
in my hand. One of the things I believe is happening is Elon Musk is moving Grok into open source territory, from what I understand.
Open source. Well, that would be good.
Yeah, so that sounds really interesting. I mean, as the next great step forward.
Well, that was the whole point with Chat GPT. Chat GPT was supposed to be an open source AI system, and that's where he had that falling out with Sam Altman, right? Because
Yeah,
because Sam Altman went into business with Bill Gates, essentially became
yeah,
a
the dark side.
closed system, the dark
Yeah,
side.
it's total Star Wars stuff, Blake. It's the dark Sith, idea.
Yeah, it is.
Anakin, you are our most promising Jedi. You've gone to the dark side of the Force. Rachel, was it you that reported something about the English perhaps being the baddies all along? I'm seeing more of that. Well, Promethean Report really is the head of the spear on that kind of analysis, looking at Monroe Doctrine, looking at their latest video, I think from a couple of days ago, covered that very topic. But I'm certainly carrying water for Promethean, and I believe Blake is as well. I think Blake's as enamored of these two kindly old ladies. So you'd think they'd be making cookies for somebody. They're really got their finger on things, and I think they know what's going on more than a lot of people. And whether they seem to come out of nowhere, and whether they're getting fed information because they've blown up like crazy, like I've never seen. They are one of the fastest growing entities that are happening right now. Absolutely remarkable. Go ahead, Blake.
Yeah, and Canadians are sharing it left, right, and now because they're starting to see the Canadian connection in all of that, because they're seeing that because Canada's being called out, as we talked about the Five Eyes, right? The Five Eyes, four of the Five Eyes are run under the historical British Crown, and so essentially the Crown was an enemy to the United States Republic for a lot of years and supported the Confederacy in the 1860s. They've been involved, but if you listen to Promethean Action, they've walked you through the whole history, right? World War I, World War II, how things changed, how the United States was essentially co-opted to become a strong arm for not the British people, but the British Empire, the elites that run it, right? So let's differentiate between the people from the UK versus the power that runs the UK.
Yeah, and Canada and America and everything else.
Same thing. Elites versus the plebs, right? It always is.
Okay, and also when you listen to Promethean Report, they had a very interesting comment about Canada, and they call Canada a proxy. So Canada is reduced to the role of antagonistic thorn in the American side on their border as a proxy against the United States. So we are in the crosshairs for whatever Trump's got planned, which we think we know what he's got planned.
Yeah,
he's going to get Greenland. Greenland is front and center in acquisition. It's going to happen. It's not going to not happen.
100%. I think that's basic. It's Monroe Doctrine, and people. I don't like the term the Don Roe Doctrine because I mean it's funny because it's the Don, and that's who he is. But he's just basically. I think we've said this before. It's 1776 is alive again. He's reconstituting the United States to its original intent. and where all of these co-opting and foreign interests, and which are local interests for some because they become treasonous and they want to make money off the whole world, and they want to do it at the expense of the republic. And
Yeah.
Canada has, as I think, is arguably has maintained that position as I said, like the proxy to the crown. It is. I mean, the fact is, Canada's formed under the British North America Act. It was an act of British Parliament. We've talked about this, I think, since the beginning of the show. When we first started, is that Canadians need to understand you do not have a country as understanding that most people in the world define as a true country. You are an act of British Parliament. Your constitution is an act. It is not a constitution, right? It are two separate things. And who ran that? The British government. And so now we're at arm's length of the British government. We're not technically the government.
About this, Blake. Here's what Trump does things big, right? This guy, he's a showman, he's a president, he's a personality. He is a bit of a demagogue, in every good sense for me. In every good sense for me. I love the guy. 1776, America is celebrating 250th birthday. What do you think Trump's going to get America for its 250th birthday?
Greenland.
I think he's going to get Greenland for America's 250th to mark the occasion.
Well, I kind of got to laugh. It's kind of like he'll get Greenland and Canada. It's back up in the discussions again. There's some other YouTubers and people talking about this, what we've discussed about Mark Carney's double agent role.
I saw your great post you did on that.
And there's more people talking about it now. And I think they're starting to see, because he's not setting any deals worldwide. It's all talk. It's all theater.
I mean, his talk is all bad. Like his talk is all anti-American. Like Canada, here's the latest from Carney. We're going to open an embassy for the first time ever in Greenland. Suddenly, all of a sudden, Canada wants an embassy for the 16 Canadians. Apparently, there's 16 people in Greenland that are Canadian citizens hanging out in Greenland.
We might as well open up an embassy in Butte, Montana, because they're both the same size.
Well,
population.
So my comment on that is, like, Carney's doing a lot. He's off seeing Xi, off in China. Trump is working against China. It's like Carney's Trump in reverse. Everything Trump does, he does the opposite. In the old comic books, he's like reverse Flash. Like he's the Flash, but he's the anti-Flash. Or Star Trek, pop culture references the Mirror episode where Spock had the cool goatee. Oh, you're the evil Spock. Okay, I get you. I understand what's going on,
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, I think we're seeing that change. I agree. What the funniest thing I saw was, Europe flexing, right? All these politicians say, we're going to raise an army. We'll have to go and fight the Americans if they do this. I'm thinking the last time Europe decided to fight America and Russia at the same time, it didn't end well for them. The Western and Eastern fronts collapsed in 1945 and said, and look who's your leader of the EU. It looks like another female fascist. And like it's very eerily similar. What we're seeing to the precursor to World War II.
Well, we're seeing the end of NATO. Its most powerful member by far, the United States of America. Now there's talk of Europe trying to get its own little army together, just comprised of the European contingent.
Well, that European contingent's going to be pretty small because Poland's all buddy-buddy with Trump. The Eastern nation, all of them are all in the Trump mode. I think all of them want their own freedom from the EU. The EU, again, it's an entity of its own creation of the elites. It doesn't represent the people on the ground, the average person who wants their country back. I think none of them want that post-national statism, which was an interesting point that I heard, that the fact that Canada and our government has, for the last decade, has been tearing us down for 10 years that we're a post-national state with no real identity. And
Correct.
essentially, Europe is doing the same thing. They're trying to tear down the national identities, which is a communist. If you look at the communists and what their think tanks knew, that they had to break down national identities, attachment to family, attachment to church, and all the things that bound us and unified us in those countries.
That defined
They
us.
had to destroy it. They had to get rid of that, because that loyalty can't allow the communist revolution, because they believe that that's a Maoist position versus a Lenin position. Lenin thought the world revolution would come up by force. They thought World War I would be the great communist revolution, because the workers would unite against the elites and not go fight the war. And guess what they did? They went and fought the war for king and country, and they showed that their loyalty was still with their nation and believed in that. They used the church, they used their nationalism to keep them loyal on that side, where the communists thought, nope, they'll pick up their arms and turn it against their masters, and we'll have a communist revolution everywhere. Mao went, no, we're not going to win that war. We're going to win culturally. And how do you culturally do it? You destroy that nationalism, that belief in your country. So that's where this post-national state side comes from. And it's amazing. But essentially, by saying that, if Canada has no core identity, and this is the interesting concept talking about where Canada's headed, it's essentially you don't have a country. So it's basically, it's for anybody to take. And I think that's the connotation attached here. If you have no identity, you'd have no nation, you're a post-national state, then what are you? Well, then to me, you're open to colonization. You're open to being taken over. And I think America is the natural ally to take that and be the peaceful side of it. I mean, I swear to God, thank God we have America on our border, because without it, a person like Trudeau would have turned Canada to Cuba. We would be like Iran. We would be fighting on the streets with blood to break free of the tyranny when you get these oppressive regimes.
Yeah, America being right next door won't allow it. So we got a big friend protecting the people of Canada against our godless government running this thing. So here's an interesting picture, Blake. When you look at the maps, you got Greenland, a big chunk of property to the east. You got Alaska north and to the west of us, and then you've got the continental United States below us, contiguous states.
Yeah.
So, but you look at Canada, we extend way up into the north there, and Greenland right in between, left and right. Where the most northern reaches of Canada, and of course it's all fragmented. The landmass is broken up, so it's fragmented in billions of little islands and chunks of land. Who gets control of that land? Does Canada protect that land? That seems to be our home and native land. I don't think we can hold on to it if China, America, or Russia decide that they want it. We're not.
Russia and especially U.S. The U.S. has never 100% agreed to Canada's sovereignty over those northern islands, and that they are disputed territories, and so is Russia, and other countries like Denmark. Denmark has a little island that's kind of a running joke, that their guys go to that island off the coast of Greenland, sort of in the Canadian side, but it's disputed. And of course, it's important for people to understand there's a 200 mile, so essentially a 300 kilometer radius around these islands of international waters that don't begin till outside of that. So if you have a little island in there, you have rights to 300 kilometers around it. So that is important to understand. So Canada can't hold the North. We can barely. You have to have submarines. We have, two of them, who were bought from the United Kingdom in the late 1990s, which was a big scandal. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, we had seamen die from a fire in one of them, and it was a scandal in the UK because it was a ripoff. We paid $750 million for 2 mothballed subs, essentially.
Yeah, I
Diesel
think it
class,
was
Victoria class
money
subs.
laundering is what it turned into.
Well, it was $1 billion deal for buddies and friends, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, and we're still paying to that day, and there's no plans. That's supposed to protect our north. Those 2 subs, 2
They're
of them.
obsolete. They're obsolete.
I'm telling any country with any size right now with a missile or whatever could take those subs out. We'd be finished in minutes. Those guys wouldn't have a chance because they're diesels. Yeah. They can't run forever underwater.
I think
they don't have nuclear capabilities. Yeah. So they're not a threat nuclear wise.
So what I'm trying to, I guess, say in all that, Blake, it's not going to be China or Russia gets control of those islands up there. It's going to be the United States. They're going to control it all.
Well, they control it now. We have NORAD. They control it.
Yeah, there you go.
Part of the missile defense system is all covered in NORAD.
And here's something else for us to ponder, and I'd be curious about your take on it. Tell me about international law and how much weight is international law? How much weight does international law have in 2026?
Zero, because international law has to have people agreeing to international law, and international law could be created by anybody who says, hey, a group of nations gets together, we're going to pass an agreement that says this is going to apply to those countries to adhere to it. The funny thing is, it's kind of like we're experiencing that here at home. UNDRIP, which is a UN Declaration, Indigenous Peoples, et cetera, rights. And that is a UN law, which no locals voted on. Not one of us. So international law is just a joke. International law is only based on who has the power to enforce it. And if you don't have guns, because that's what it comes down to against certain nations, guns and the power to make them change, they're just going to laugh at you. But these laws get passed by our opposition in this world, our enemies in this world against you. And those positions of, like when we take a look at the UN Security Council, for example, it's a joke. And the WTO is only voluntary. The WTO essentially is, again, agreements of nations who say we'll agree to these terms. It's contracts. We make contracts, which just means we're going to hold this to our word. We're going to do this. And unfortunately, those laws don't apply worldwide. And they only apply to, and some people will say, well, if you've got, the Islamic Republic voting in favor of a law that applies to your country, they arbitrarily say, but it doesn't apply to us, like human rights, right? Human rights went right off the table with trade as soon as we started working with China, right? And China became, in the 1990s, became the new place for cheap labor. So standards on human rights and how you treat people went out the window, which was a Western world. Most of the international law was based on the old Western world classical liberal stance on human rights and how you treat each other. You're innocent before the law, right? So you're innocent until proven guilty, but all that changes. Most countries in the world don't have that law. You are guilty and have to prove yourself innocent. They can arrest you and try you, and you're having to prove your innocence, which is the opposite of what our Western values were. So that's international law now is a joke. It's going to take muscle if you want somebody to be compelled to agree to that law, you have to have the muscle to compel them. And I'm sorry, the United States, good luck with compelling them now. They've just shown the world they're not messing around, but but the term that we keep hearing people saying, well, the left is out there, and I won't say just the left. The left is the sock puppets to the established order in the world, the old world establishment who wants to retain power and control. They're their shock troops. They're the ones that they fund. They're the ones that cause chaos to maintain so that they can continue to control the levers of power in the world. And Trump has made that. He's not the fascist. They are the fascists. They invert everything on their enemies. Everything they are, they're saying that's what you are.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what we're up against here. And Trump is, as he said, he's a demagogue. But I would call him, if anything, more of a benevolent one, because his intent is he has to take force on force against those people. He's not doing it against people on the ground. He's going after the people that created this problem in the first place, who are the real fascists in the world. They're the ones that are going after. So right now, the Western Hemisphere is what we need to get in control, and that's what he's doing. He's securing the Western Hemisphere.
Well, and of course, just last week, Trump dropped out of 33 UN organizations or globalist institutions. We're done. We're not playing. So it speaks to your point, Blake. How are you going to, enforce international law when the other partner in it all isn't dancing to it at all? So now you're left with what Carney and Starmer and others are calling, even Zelensky himself, the coalition of the willing. So you've got these, the old order, you've got a conflict between the American nationalism versus the globalists, which is pretty much everybody else, except for the people. The people are rising up. In Canada, early indications are, Blake, that the movement for Alberta independence is going exceptionally well, and that they're going to get the signatures they want without any question. There is no doubt in anyone's mind they're going to get those questions settled.
I agree. And that's the talk about the wedge. When you said Greenland on one side run by the U.S., Alaska, the lower 48, the North, we can't hold on to it. It's basically being protected by the Americans already. And if Alberta says we're out, and it looks like they're going to get that, and you can guarantee those elections are going to be watched like a hawk by the Americans, that there isn't any meddling because they're fighting in the U.S. We're going to see that exposed about the election fraud worldwide being run by these same elites that are being an old world. And I would go with the Promethean action, that there is those subversive entities tied to those old established order, the old cartels of the banking cartels out of Europe and specifically London, that are still trying to control the outcomes through, we would call it nefarious, but I would call it covert operations, to misinformation, doing things illegally, that they're a big part of behind this. And of course, with their allies on the ground, their political allies locally. But I think that's going to blow up. We know that's going to blow up. And when Alberta's independence vote comes up, hopefully all that's been blown up. No, they can't cheat. They can't do anything. They can't fake the voter rolls. They can't have a bunch of people or non-citizens vote. Alberta will vote to separate. And then it opens the door. You've got that American wedge now right up in there. What's that going to do for BC? What's that going to do for Saskatchewan? Saskatchewan's already talking about doing their own vote now. I just think it's just, unless Canada has a change of heart quickly and gets out of their Laurentian elite. But I do believe that pressure is coming down. And I know we should get back maybe to the title of the show, but Iran plays a massive play in this entire change in world thing, because they can fight to regime change themselves, have that revolution towards freedom. That is going to really pin back the part of that tripolar world that we're going to see. It's going to move. China's out of the Western Hemisphere. They're being chased out. And that's simply it. Now, China's not going to be an enemy, folks. They're not going to. They're a geopolitical threat, but they will not be an enemy because they're traders. They'll trade, so they'll work out trading agreements, but they won't be able to manipulate like they've been able to. Yeah. And they're going to look after their hemisphere. But with Iran gone, Venezuela gone, China's going to be having to pay full world market rates for resources that they want to drag in there. And they won't be able to have influence in the Middle East anymore if Iran falls.
Yeah, really interesting times. We got a great question here. I've had recent success getting some family members to wake up to the reality of the Canadian situation. We're starting a book club. I propose a book on the Laurentian elites. Any suggestions, Blake? Have you done any reading about this stuff? I mean, all my information just comes out of the headlines, and it's so obvious. And of course, the historic process of Canada and how our voting works and how senators are appointed in Canada. But, you think of the last spike with the Trans-Canada Railway being put in, Pierre Burton with the traditional historic viewpoint of these things. But in terms of a modern critical analysis of the Laurentian elites, how we got where we are, I can't even think of a single title. Blake, yourself?
Well, you could start off with if you're looking for very modern and the corruption and how it's run, you could start with how, the political parties that are part of that. Like, we know that the Uniparty in Canada has been involved, that you've got, you could probably go into some early books by Preston Manning. He kind of covers a lot of that. Yeah. That would be from the 1980s when he formed the Reform Party. The West Wants In. There's some great books. The Liberanos, which got basically Ezra Levant talks about how the entire corruption system of the Liberal government, the Liberal Party, and how it's being utilized this way. For me, it's what you described. It's more of a book club on history. Read the history. If you know the foundations of Canada, your eyes just explode open. It's like you've been red pilled. Just read history. The history itself. Read the Canadian Constitution Act and understand what an act is. Read the British North America Act. Understand the underpinnings of what Canada has been formed on, and you'll realize that we're not really a nation. We're not a nation formed on its own foundation, saying, hey, we're starting a country. Here's our constitution. We're not asking for a foreign country to give us a constitution. Essentially, that's what we did. When they say, oh, well, Trudeau, Senior brought back the constitution from the UK to Canada. It's like, no, it didn't. It's an act of parliament. It's still, we have a governor general. We still have lieutenant governors at the provincial level. The attachment to the crown is real. Essentially, the crown, they say, well, it's just a figurehead thing. It's more of a symbolic thing. No, it isn't. All things are connected to the crown ownership of land. The land we're on, they are the landlords. We are the peasants. We have rights within that structure. And that's all it is. And Canada was allowed to walk off and operate on its own, but we still call it a royal assent. Why do we call every law passes royal assent? Because it has to pass the royals, the crown. The crown is His Majesty the King Charles. And that is the crown, no matter how they try and tell you, well, it's not really, it's more of a figurehead, but don't believe it. Just read history, follow how Canada was founded, and look how it's not changed. It's all smoke and mirrors. I
went out using some AI. This is a great tool we have today. I said, give me a book, Laurentian Elite. Give me some 5 books critical of the Laurentian Elite. It comes out, The Big Shift, Seismic Change in Canadian Politics, Business and Culture, and What It Means for Our Future, 2013 by Daryl Bricker and John Ibbotson. Ibbotson I'm familiar with. Right Here, Right Now, Politics and Leadership in the Age of Disruption, 2018 by none other than Stephen Harper. It's The Regime Stupid, a report from the Cowboy West and Why Stephen Harper Matters by Barry Cooper. Around 2010 to 11, he published that. Other related works, older works, The Patriot Game, National Dreams and Political Realities, 1986 by Peter Brimelow, which would be really interesting, which portrays Canadian federalism as a protection racket benefiting the Laurentian elites, influential on later conservative critiques of it. And Canadian conservative political thought, edited by Lee Trepanier and Richard Avramenko in 2023, challenges the dominance of Laurentian liberalism and highlights neglected conservative traditions in Canada. So there's a number there that, you can replay the little video here and write some of those titles down. But there you go. There are some out there. You know what's interesting too, Blake? You go into one of these chapters or Barnes & Noble in America, and it's like you're walking into some sort of leftist paradise of trans books and LGBTQ plus and every political biography by any leftist politician you could ever imagine. Oh, there's Michelle Obama's book, Being Michelle. Oh, there's Barack's book, and oh, there's Ted Kennedy's. But it goes on, and it's really amazing how it goes that way. When you go in there, you see very few books by conservative commentators or conservative personalities. Is generally populated by a who's who of the left. Oprah, How I Done It.
Yeah.
So,
well, and it's funny, and especially here, because you look at the left and the left is being managed. Let's call it for what it is. They're being managed by the elites to keep power and control and to demoralize what would be historically the moral majority, the patriots, the ones that believed in their country, and they're the ones being torn apart. And then they get used like elbows up. But in this case, think about all the language we've heard about the attacks on Trump and the attacks on Maple MAGA because they're being influenced by American influence. Yet, as you just described, when you go into the left-wing bookstores, the left-wing groups, they have speakers that they've had here. They've had the Clintons multiple times. They've had Barack Obama up here. They import all the American left to come up here and speak at their conferences and do all that kind of stuff. Not a peep about influence. Nothing. The liberals funded Clinton to come up and speak at one of their annual general meetings, paid her a pile of money to do that. And yet the conservatives, they've never had Donald Trump here. Not once. They've never had, from my understanding, a single president from the Republican side to come and speak at their conferences that I'm aware of. Maybe George Bush might have came up way back when with Mulrooney and did something for, investment or something, but I don't recall that ever happening. But here's the left, the most hypocritical group, that their stores are filled with American leftist propaganda, which of course isn't American. These are Marxists, collectivists, rabble rousers that want to overturn the U.S. Constitution anyways. And so they want a world revolution. It really comes down to, we're right back down to the elites are wanting to use communism and collectivism for power and control and management, and their ground troops they actually believe that we're moving into a Marxist revolution. When you see what's going on in Minnesota right now, when you see those mobs, count the Marxist flags that are in those crowds when they're marching. Soviet flags flying, hammers and sickles flying. They aren't
being subtle about it.
They're not. They're now out front. So, and then when anybody says, "Oh, it's Marxist," they say, "Prove it." Where do you see any Marxism? Look at the crowds. Look what they're flying. Look at the flags. Because it was the Marxists who fought the fascists for some reason. They're the ones that created the anti-fascist group, or the European League. They were run by Marxists, competing collectivists, two visions of collectivism: fascist collectivism, which was the National Socialists, versus the globalist communists who didn't like the idea of nationalism tied to the collectivist viewpoint. So that's what we're seeing worldwide. It's terrifying what we're seeing right now.
It is interesting. Now, a character comes to my mind right now because of today's a significant date. Steve Bannon was put in jail. He was put in jail for contempt of Congress.
Yeah.
So Bill Clinton was supposed to appear today before an intel committee, and he's decided he doesn't want to do that. He's not going to show up. Kind of like Steve Bannon said, "I'm not showing up." So Clinton's not showing up. Hillary's due to show up tomorrow. Do you think Hillary's going to show up?
Nope.
Do you think Hillary and Bill should go to jail just like they put Steve Bannon in jail for contempt of Congress?
I think that they want that. That's what they want. They're trying to antagonize. The left is doing. The left wants a Kent State moment. They're looking for Trump to be seen as the one rounding up political opposition, putting jail, again, doing everything they did So
they had their Kent State moment. The trouble for them, it wasn't a girl putting a flower in a guy's gun, in a National Guardsman gun. It was some idiot lesbian trying to run over and kill an ICE officer.
yeah,
And so, she checked out as a result. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, it was just revealed through that woman's, the late, whatever the hell she was, her social media. And so she was rejoicing in the death of Charlie Kirk a few months back. So, payback's a bitch.
yeah. Well, but they haven't had their Kent State moment yet, in my opinion. They're trying.
Well, no, I think
Trump.
that
but
was
they want
supposed to be it, but it failed because they didn't get a good victim. Because
they're using it to trigger.
We need a real victim.
You'll notice that the left is allowed to scream violence, to use violence against people, because they are trying to force Trump to send troops on the ground, so they'll create a firefight between the citizens on the ground. Believe me, the Kent State moment hasn't happened yet to that level. They want troops that Trump has sent in. Trump's not buying the bait. He's letting Minneapolis collapse, let it fall apart, because that's Tim Walz's distraction, and the Democrats are going fanatically crazy to deflect attention from the election fraud, the trillions of dollars embezzled to go to all their shock troop groups and organizations and NGOs. It's all being exposed. They want us to start looking at the fight on the ground. They're not wanting us to see the unlawful criminal behavior that's happened under their regimes. So this is a massive deflection. They're masters at projecting on people, and that's what they're trying to do. Trump's the fascist. Trump's the Nixon coming with soldiers, and they're trying to get that Kent State, and they're trying to turn him into a Nixon, is what they're going to try and do. And I don't think it's going to happen. He's not buying it. He's not going to send in Marines and fight with National Guardsmen. And I don't think those National Guardsmen and Tim Walz would pick up a gun against their own soldiers fight that showed up.
Yeah.
But he could federalize the Minnesota National Guard and put them, say, go clean up the streets, because the cops are standing down.
Yeah.
But this is all going to land on Tim Walz, because the voters of Minnesota know who's the person doing this. It's Tim Walz and the Democratic machine.
The corruption in Minnesota is coming out. It can't be hidden anymore. Tim Walz, to the extent where Tim Walz is not going to seek re-election for governor. So, that's telling right there. And so Nick Shirley doing outstanding work on the, private journalism front. Speaking of journalism, another story breaking is, I guess, who's the guy at Project Veritas, the main guy there? James O'Keefe.
James O'Keefe, yep.
Yeah, so O'Keefe's gone undercover, him or his people, and they got a Secret Service guy who's only been an American for like 5 years or something, maybe. If he's even an American, I don't know. But they got a Secret Service guy assigned to J.D. Vance, who doesn't like Vance and doesn't like Republicans. He's a Democrat. And he's revealing all the itinerary undercover. They snared this guy, and it's just a disaster. So the U.S. government still has a long way to go of getting all these rogue elements controlled and basically fired from their positions to clean it out. It's a national security issue in terms of keeping the president and his administration safe. We just had a radical trans activist bust into JD's house. Fortunately, the family wasn't there, but it was, there is some real vulnerabilities out there brought about by a failure to screen these people effectively. You've only been American for 5 years. You hate JD Vance, or you hate, the American country that you're in, or the Republicans, whatever your beef is. And here you are, guarding the second most important figure in the country. Kind of crazy.
Well, listening to Dan Bongino, because he was Secret Service, right? He worked for the Obamas, but listening to him, he would not condemn the Obamas during that. His job was to protect any political ideas. He said he saw stuff that bothered him, all that kind of stuff. but he didn't do it because his job was to protect the president at all costs. So he didn't allow it to his political bias to get in the way. But as you stated 100% correctly, is that, and this goes to the Panicans, probably a message to the Panicans, is that you guys wanted, and the Panicans being MAGA who wanted everything done overnight. This is a multi-year process. This is not going to happen overnight. These people, we've been saying it all along, they're entrenched deep, decades of entrenchment. This year has been the exposure. The first year of his administration is exposing and exposing and exposing. Meanwhile, they're trying to get all these deep staters who are entrenched in there. And I wouldn't even really call them truly deep state. It's the swamp, they call it, about draining the swamp. These are creatures that have been in there for so long, it's just become ingrained in the culture. It's a corrupted class that needs to be erased completely. And I'm not talking in physically, but I'm talking removed, and the entire political apparatus changed to something new. They got to fix it. They got to clean it up. They got to tear things down, because Trump could go and arrest a bunch of these people right now, but then the decades of entrenched judges will sit there and let all these people free. So, and they'll openly say Trump's wrong. And of course, the regime media will be saying, see, Trump was wrong. He's just arresting people for political ambitions only, not because of law. So this is going to take time. And I think Trump knows that's why they have to rely on who the next president is. That's going to be the big thing. Win the midterms, build up for the next 8-year president who will have all the time in the world to fight to change all this down. And they can systematically restructure the U.S. back to its original constitution, which may mean reconstituting the U.S. dollar, because you can see he's fighting with Jerome Powell right now, which the Federal Reserve, you look at the price of metals, folks, they are going through the roof. That means people are no longer trusting the fiat currencies. The world supported it, supported the central bank system that we have under a Federal Reserve system, which was basically printing dollars out of thin air based on the future GDP of your country. And these bankers who got together to create this all get a percentage of all of that money that's being printed. They get a 6%, apparently, that's the number I understand, override on all money that's being produced for them to manage it. But I think America, and that's, of course, is a linchpin point to where the old established financial order Europe has control as well, because they can help manipulate and control that reserve system from afar as well. And I think we may see for the first time, I think Trump is like, look at the price of silver, look at the price of gold, look at the price of palladium. All these metals are going through the roof. Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff will start to dissipate. But this is the trust that people have. I think Trump is going to reconstitutionalize the U.S. 1776 and its own dollar back. You need to control your currency. Interest rates shouldn't be managed by a cartel. Interest rates should be managed by the free market. You competing interests say, I'll loan you that money at the best rate I can afford. And if you don't like it, maybe it's some services they provide extra. They need to sell it. They can't control the world's economy on a lever by saying, well, let's raise interest rates to 7% because we need to slow things down. Well, it's the whole system itself is the problem that causes inflation. And demand, supply and demand, naturally, without manipulation, it works great. It does, because it creates competition. Rates cause competition, property cause competition. So we'll see what happens. So what's that one?
Interesting comment here from Pat. I heard speculation. The only reason Walz was plucked from obscurity, run with Kamala, was its instant access to funding. Clearly that money was ill-gotten, and the establishment knew it. Well, yeah, this is why Hillary Clinton became the de facto nominee in 2016, because the DNC was bankrupt, and Bill and Hillary bankrolled them. So we'll give you money, pull yourselves out of hock, but in exchange for that, we got the nomination. You nominate Hillary for the presidency and take out Bernie and the bros and leave the road open for Hillary. And that's exactly what happened. Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Donna Brazile, both of them in turn, clearing the way. So they were the chairs of the DNC, respectively, and they cleared the field for Hillary. And that was the reward for the money. Blake, in the time remaining, let's close out talking about Iran. Horrific scenes coming out of Iran. They had blackout, but there is some tape, video, data, broadcasting still coming out of there. How long does that regime have? Is it going to fall? Is it going to rally and it's going to survive? I am hearing that the Ayatollah is wanting to talk to President Trump, that the Iranian government's trying to work something out. Trump, for his part, seems to be marshaling American forces. Told the word went out, if you're an American citizen in Iran, get the hell out because something's going to happen. So give me your eye in the sky on Iran, where they are, where they're going. How long is this going to stay? It's right on the, it's the razor's edge right now of that government collapsing and going to the people. It's really interesting. We've seen this play out before. Generally, the despots are unable to hold on to power and a change comes. Tell me about Iran. What's your thoughts on it?
Well, unfortunately, the minority has all the guns, and that's kind of the problem. What you need in a true revolution is actually the people that have the guns support the revolution and put down their guns and have a coup. Usually the military will support the people, and then they would go and remove the regime heads by force.
Yeah.
But in this case, it depends. The problem is that the Islamic Republic has very loyal radicals that are within that military apparatus. So hopefully, there's going to be enough people to do it. The problem is the people on the ground are trying to fight a peaceful war. And yeah, there's some riots, there's some burning, they're tearing down statues and flags.
Mostly peaceful.
But it's as peaceful as you're going to get against a tyrannical government without guns.
Well,
when you're seeing the guns are being turned on them, that they're going to murder 12,000 people, apparently is the number that's coming out now. This is the fear, is that this genocidal aspects, dying regimes are they're like an animal in a corner that you've cornered. They still can bite, they can still hurt. And what we're hoping for is a Nicolae Ceausescu moment. And basically the people finally just pick up everything and go and get those people, because they're not going to leave without physical force. Don't let them escape either to Russia or wherever they want to go hide out. There'll be a bunch of guys in their underwear sitting around together with in a Moscow apartment with the leader of Syria, the leader of all these old despots that have been chased out. But apparently they have been. I've been reading all kinds of reports. Like some of them have been showing up with their families in Beirut. Some of them have been showing up in Russia or been seen there. That they're definitely trying to move things out. It's been 2 weeks straight now. These people are battling in the streets to take control of their country. We don't get to see it as much, but with Starlink and other entities, that's Elon Musk, folks. He's a hero. It was kind of funny. Did you see the apology that they were trying to get out of a UK MP or cabinet minister thanking that Starlink, but couldn't say Elon Musk's name? Just pathetic. But for helping the Iranian people, keeping the messaging coming in from outside of the world, because it's inspiring them to keep up the fight. And I can only imagine, a couple years ago, if we didn't have America on our border, that would have been the truckers in Ottawa. That would have been Canada, blacked out, locked out, fighting for their freedom. And if we didn't have America on the border, if we didn't have X, because that was about the time Twitter was starting to crack down, they were doing all that. But then
I got kicked off of Twitter.
But enough people there was enough people to say what's going on. And luckily, we're blessed that we're not having to do that to that extreme where people are shooting guns. Though we got our truckers got stomped on, they got rammed by horses and batons and sprayed in the pepper sprayed and gassed and all that kind of stuff. But the people of Iran, I mean, it's a world changing moment. Venezuela going down, Argentina switching to true freedom and capitalism, Chile making their changes. You're seeing the changes in, Panama. It sounds like, if Trump is really cracking down on this global, I mean, let's call it for what they are. They are the specter of that running the world from James Bond world. Yeah. And they are running these criminalized, these underground banking systems. The cartels are being funded. He's shutting down the banks. He's getting after them in the Caribbean. He's going after the cartels. Don't be surprised. Mexico says, I'll turn a blind eye and let them pound the crap out of the cartel there. They'll break apart. They'll run and hide. But Iran is the big power in the Middle East. And, if it becomes the freedom and liberty country that they want, apparently I wasn't alive very long when they were under the Shah. I was about 10 years old when the Iranian Revolution happened then. Yeah. But when you look at the old photos and you look at video and images from Iran, I mean, people were normal. Like they weren't covered with, face masks and, the Islamic extremism didn't take them over. They didn't look like the Taliban was in control, but people were enjoying their lives free, choosing what they wanted to do. And, which is really strange when you think about it. Why the hell did they allow the Ayatollah Khomeini to leave France and allow him to go back? I mean, the guy, why would you do that? Why would the Western powers support that at that time?
Well, that's a great question, right?
And again, it comes down to the Promethean action, when you hear where they're talking about that specific action as well, shows that there's this dark undercurrent within what we thought was the free West, right? And those that are in the power, they're doing this. And why you're seeing now a blackout really in the mainstream or regime media in the Western world, not reporting this and lying about it. For example, Toronto had 40,000 people show up in support of Iran, not their typical Palestinian Hamas holes running around with their flags and blocking people, a few hundred of them, or maybe 1,000 if they're lucky. And then they say in our local corporate media here, or I should call it the regime media, the CBC, saying that was only a few hundred. Like,
as they do, as they tend to do.
But why would this would be classically the liberal people would support this all around the world. And now we're starting to see traditional Democrats and liberals coming out mad that their apparatus isn't supporting this. You're seeing people saying, I'm supporting now Donald Trump because I thought my party supported freedom and liberty for people. And because they're not supporting the independence and the freedom fight for the people of Iran on the ground, this is turning a lot of heads, and this may be the final death knell for a lot of these political people. It's going to be interesting. But I mean, I saw people posting like, I can't wait for a change because I want to go skiing in Iran. I want to go there. And it's kind of funny. I've always had I've looked at Google Maps and everybody's on satellite view, and you can go explore these areas. And it looks like some incredibly beautiful areas in Iran. Yeah. Mountains, kind of similar to us in a way in British Columbia or Nevada, and you're in those kind of semi-desert high mountains. But a big promising country that used to be such a global power, maybe kind of a dark, was a bad guy through Israel's history. Yeah,
some's got
a good guy too.
Some's got to give. We're obviously keeping our eye on the situation and watching and hearing and waiting to see what the Americans are going to do something. It looks like they're gearing up with a strike or doing something. And then finally, it's in the title, Scott Adams lost his battle with cancer. He had been fighting it for a long time. He talked about it and correlated it with some medical treatment that he took a few years ago during a certain epidemic. And he said, I'm sorry, I was critical. I told people to get out there and do this. And he goes, I want to tell you I'm wrong. And that was a big moment for him. And in the last weeks before he passed, he gave some acknowledgement of Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. He said, save me. That's something I need. I don't want to talk to anybody about it, or, because it's a very emotional, fraud thing. And what us Christian people can be like, we get very excited. Everybody wants to teach and preach and talk. And it's a very private thing for the guy. And so hopefully he's getting the speed lesson brought up to speed on the gospel and all those important eternal issues with Christ. Certainly has all eternity to work it out.
Which is, and our sense of justice is not God's sense of justice. And I think that when we think of the thief on the cross, that is the ultimate message to anybody. It's never too late. Right up to your last breath, you can be joined him in paradise. And that's, you don't have to get into a theological battle of, faith versus works. If Jesus says that, I will go with what Jesus said. So, and yes, that could apply to Adolf Hitler. And I'm sorry to say that, but that could have happened to anybody who on their last breath gave up and surrendered.
All right, let's take a look at this comment. I only recently became aware of the refusal of the Canadian military to crack down on the truckers. Only the shady RCMP assisted. It took U.S. tow trucks to help out. I bet Trump wouldn't approve that. I think he would. I think Trump's a man of freedom. He's a man of the people. I don't think Trump would. Trump wants to help the people. And I think Trump, as Blake has been alluding to, is going to be a big help to Alberta if it manages to get the votes needed to separate, and Canada tries to strong arm Alberta into staying. I believe Alberta is going to find a very willing and helpful friend south of the border, aimed at ensuring that the liberty they craved will be theirs to have.
Yep.
So I wouldn't judge Trump. Trump's America first, but he's not askance to helping people out. And he's proven that in the case of Iran right now. Trump is having an address tonight, I believe, to the Iranian people. So stay tuned to that. So rest in peace, Scott Adams. God bless America. God bless President Trump for sure. And thank you, Blake, as always, for helping us navigate these amazing times that we're living in. Folks, we're going to be back on Friday. Give us a thumbs up. We like it on the show. And right now, this whole show, my screen here in Nobara is really acting up on Blake's camera. So I got to learn how to fix that, because I got another show coming up later today. And I'm going to have a whole bunch of those glowing screens around me. So wish me luck. Take care, everybody, and bye for now.